All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hourglass Podcast. You're joining Kareen and myself. Why do I always do this, Kareen?
Kareen and me,
Kareen,
myself,
Kareen and Tim. And we have a really special guest today. She is a 1%er herself, and she's in prep at the moment for season 8.
Hello.
Miss
How you doing?
Marlette.
Good. I know. I'm good. I'm great. Ask me on a low day when I'm resting, and
Yeah.
then we might get a different answer. But otherwise, I'm great.
Have you had a high day today?
No.
Oh, just having just a
just
high
like
energy day.
No, I'm just, I don't know. If it's a training day, my energy is just like through the roof. And if a
Yeah.
rest day, I'm like, okay, when can I eat again?
Yes.
So
That's just
we-
you as a person. I feel like every time I see you, you're just like always buzzing, so high energy. It's
Fully.
so nice.
Like you would never know I was in peak week. You'd never know I was dieting. Like,
Yeah.
I am just this ball of energy, literally.
I usually have to ask her about 4 times before I get the actual real bottom line answer. You know, it's always like, I'm fantastic, everything's amazing, and I'm like, Miles. And then I'm also, everything's good. And then it's like, and then 2 more times, and then she's like, I'm actually pretty tired, you know? I'm like, oh yeah,
so
sweet.
true.
You know?
I remember Tim goes to me, all right, we need to like, trust like your judgment, whatever. And I was like, trust my judgment? No, I actually don't. I don't trust my own judgment. My body doesn't know when I'm tired because I'm just like, go.
Yeah.
And then I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'm actually tired.
It's
What
like
judgment?
whatever Miles's feedback is, just do the opposite of that, and it should be about.
Balances
For
it.
real.
There's an episode of Seinfeld where George does everything the opposite of how he normally does, and his life starts going really well.
Oh,
kinda
Oh,
like-
I watched that. Yeah, I remember that one.
It's like opposite.
We should try that. It's a
Um,
great approach.
Yeah, it's like someone was talking about that the other day. It's like flip a coin, because I was trying to make a decision, and like flip a coin, and whatever think about the options of what would happen if you selected that or that, and then when you flip the coin, whatever you think that you want to happen while the coin's in the air,
Yeah.
that's the thing you do. And I
I'm
was
like
like-
shocked because I literally do this.
Yeah,
Because in
Yeah.
that moment when the coin's in the air, you're like, I hope it lands on this one.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's when you know.
Yes.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that-
ADHD things.
But then you're like, oh, quick. Yeah, and then it's in the air, and you're like, oh, that's what I want. And then I'm like, no, I don't. And then it lands, and you're like, I don't know. Which one would I-
It's where you
Which
just
one-
bat it out the way and then you just don't know where it lands. And you just go do whatever you want.
That's what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with that at the moment with where I want to move in and live. I want to settle down in somewhere, right? And I'm just, do I go Brisbane? Do I go Gold Coast? Do I move back overseas? Like, it's just, I'm just trying to figure it out. So I've been flipping coins. Coins are flying all over the place. There's like coins flying my room. There's like coins coming out of my room, and I'm like, you know, what happens? Anyway, so we wanted to talk about, a couple of things today. Obviously, I'm sure everyone knows who you are, but if what's a 30 words or less summary of Miles?
Wow, like we were saying, I'm just like this big ball of energy. That is all. I'm a big yes girl. I'm an
Yep.
all-in girl always.
Mhm.
When I finally make a decision, I'm literally an all-in girl.
Yep.
Yeah, super passionate about helping people, and that's why obviously I do what I do for my job. And I just genuinely love helping people in any way that I can do, like literally in any way, any shape, form.
For anyone listening, you're a paramedic, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Why did I say for anyone listening? People are only listening. It's like, what?
For anyone who's still listening.
Well, for those, yeah.
If anyone's still listening and hasn't turned it off, Miles is a paramedic.
Yeah, I am. I am a paramedic for 8 years now. I'm getting old, you guys.
Wow.
Wow.
We were talking about that as well too. With obviously at the moment you're doing a little bit less of that crazy emergency stuff, right? And
Yeah.
how do you find your prep now with less of that on your system compared to
Honestly,
before?
it is wild. Like,
Mm.
because I've only ever prepped doing heaps, obviously almost shift work, and then at the moment I've been able to pull back, and it has been the biggest blessing. Like,
Right.
I didn't realize how tired I was until I wasn't.
Mm.
And that's just in general life. Um, I definitely have noticed the stress has dropped dramatically.
Yep.
Like, it's just one thing that I've been able to control, which I've never been able to control. So
Yep.
that's been amazing. I think it's just that. And I just feel like my just own like general well-being and mental health is just so much clearer.
Yep.
Like, it is actually really sad how shift work impacts
Yeah.
not only physically but like mentally. You just like, you wake up and you're like, wait, what day is it? I don't know it. Like, you're just confused, and you just got to try and figure out like meal times and stuff, and like, how long do I fast for today because I'm working a night shift, so I need to have food for a night time, and it's just like so wild.
Mm.
But honestly, it has been the biggest blessing. Like, that's probably one thing that I've noticed with my physique is that I'm not as stressed. My physique
Mm.
isn't like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Is it
Mm.
daytime? Is it nighttime? Do I eat now? Do I sleep now? It's very like regimented, and
Yep.
it's great.
Well, can I
Great.
ask you a question there? Because when we were planning to do this podcast, Tim was like, "Oh, okay, maybe we'll do like 6:30, something like that." And then he messages me like a couple minutes later, and he's like, "Oh, wait, no, Miles goes to bed at 7 p.m." So obviously now I feel like you've gone probably the opposite way. Can you step us
Yeah.
through like what your schedule looks like at the moment?
So on my shift days, I'm up at the moment 3 a.m. To, yes, I know, wild, right? I'm up at 3 a.m. to quickly get ready. I've got everything ready the night before, and it's just essentially getting changed, grabbing my food, popping it in my lunchbox, and literally going.
Mm.
So I get to the gym maybe around 3:30. Sometimes if I'm like struggling to get up, 3:45. And I have my pre on the way. Like, I already have it pre-made in the fridge, so literally I just grab it and go. And then I sip on that on the way to the gym. And I try and do as much of, I basically do all of my training first thing in the morning. So for me, that's important. So it's my priority. It's the first thing I do every single day. Get my steps in, get a little warm up, wake up. Then I'm like, sweet, I'm ready to train. I'll go and train, and then I go do my cardio, and then I shower and go straight to work from there. So that's kind of my regime. And then, because I'm up so early, I have to go to bed early. And if I don't get at least 6 hours sleep, there's definitely been times where I've only had like 5.5, and I am not okay. Like, I'm
Mm.
functioning, but I'm not fully functioning.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I make it happen, and it's really funny because at work I will just I just accidentally, I'm constantly sighing, like I'm like and I don't realize I'm doing it, and everyone's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm so sorry, like I don't mean to do it, it's just coming out, like I'm so sorry, I have no control. And then I'm like, wow, you guys, I'm really sighing a lot today. I literally could get myself home. That's how much I'm literally blowing out air from my mouth. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But I've definitely had experience where I've slept way more and had a better day. So
Mm.
Yeah.
that's basically what it is. And then on my days where I'm not working, I sleep in, and maybe I sleep until like 5, sometimes only 4:30, just because I've got like that system
Sleeping
going.
Big sleeping, Miles.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I know. Oh my gosh, but it's so funny. Like, I start to deteriorate maybe like more, what, 6:30. I start
Yeah.
to go like, okay, I'm getting ready for bed now. Like,
Mm.
yeah. And yeah. That honestly, that D&D app, like the sleep part of iPhone, is
Mm.
like the biggest blessing, because the second that goes off, I can't get notified, and I'm not touching my phone, and I sleep so well.
Mm. Mm.
That's what it was like when I was in Finland. I was going to sleep at like 7, and I was waking up at
Yeah.
like 3 in the morning, and it was just my
Yeah.
natural, like, because it got
Circadian
dark.
rhythm, right?
Yeah, it got dark at like 3 p.m. So
Yeah.
by 7 o'clock, you're like midnight, basically.
Mm.
Yeah,
Weird.
ick. That's like
Yeah,
really sad.
yeah. It was sad actually. It was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Because I'm
uh,
like,
yeah,
I get FOMO of sun. Like, it's really weird. I get so FOMO, like if the sun's out and I'm not out, I'm like, I need to be out, I need to be out. I'm missing out on the day, I'm missing
yeah,
out on the day. I cannot. That's why I'm such a morning person. And it's so funny. So my Aura ring literally has picked up on my circadian rhythm, and it literally
Yeah.
says that I'm a morning person. Like it's
Yeah.
just, it's like you work best between these hours. I'm like, you are so right. That is so
Yeah.
accurate.
I was just about to say, like, I was gonna say that's such a nutty schedule, but like sometimes you gotta assess where your body is like most optimal throughout the day. So if you find that you're working your best in the mornings, but you also work quite early, you know, people always say they don't have enough time, they don't, you know, they can't get the day sorted. There are ways, you know, if you want something, you have to
Absolutely.
work around
Yeah.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know. And then so I get that, like, yeah, we're all tired and we all don't have time. But in my opinion, this is something I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm going to make it work. I don't care if I have to get up at 2:30 in the morning to whatever. If it means that I'm going to get it done, I'm doing it. Like,
Yeah.
that's a non-negotiable for me. So, and it makes me so happy after I've done it. And I have definitely tried and I've trialed and I've tested myself and been like, all right, let's see how I feel if I do this after work. And there's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way. No way. After a 12-hour shift, 13-hour shift, that is not happening. You get to like maybe what, 9 a.m. and you're like, yeah, I'm 100% going to go train. And then it gets to like 6 p.m. and you're like, I'm going home and I'm going straight to bed.
Yeah.
Like you're exhausted. So I'm like, when I don't care if I'm tired, pre-workout, that's what pre-workout's for. I'll get that buzz, and then once you start feeling a pump and like once you start moving, you're starting to wake up anyway. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. So that's why I'm like priority first thing in the morning always.
I used to train at night when I was younger. When I first started going to the gym, I'd be one of those guys that would sleep in all day, you know, and then I'd go late. And then I started going in the morning, like probably as I was becoming more into bodybuilding and stuff like that. And ever since then, I can't train at nighttime. And because that's the thing too, is if you train at night, if you manage to get there, you're worked up, right? It depends on the person and the session, but like I find that especially if it's like a leg session or something, I'm wired for hours after that. So it is tough, but exactly what Corinne said. You've got to work out what's best for you, what your day's like, you know, what kind of work commitments you have, the type of interactions you have socially, because in prep, a lot of the time, it's not actually the prep that's the tiring thing. It's just your life plus a little bit less food. You know, a lot of people are quick to blame the low calories or whatever it is for the reason why they're in a position, but it's actually all of it together. And if you work out your schedule more efficiently, the prep just goes easier. You know, yes, you're still tired, yes, you're still hungry, but you get through it because you're optimizing the way you are. You know, like you said before, I need 6 hours, otherwise I'm weird. You know,
I mean, I'm already weird, but like I'm weirder.
You've got to work that stuff out. So, yeah, for anyone listening that's struggling with their schedule, I think a good piece of advice is nothing bad happens if you go to bed early. I think that's a good one to live by. You know?
Correct. And just trial. Honestly, like when people reach out to me and they ask me, how do I do it? How did I figure it out? It took me years and months and like consistently trialing different things. And that's the only way you're going to figure out what works for you. You just have to try it. Like, don't be so like negative, like, oh my God, but that's so hard. Like waking up at 2 a.m. Yeah, shut the fuck up and just do it. Just trial it because it might actually work in your favor, you know?
Yes, yes.
What's your schedule like, Corinne? You go to bed pretty early? You're like a bit like me, like a 10, 11, right?
Yeah, around a 10, 11. It just depends what I got on in the mornings sometimes because my work schedule it's not set. Like every day I'm coming across something different. So I just play by ear, you know. I live my life a bit precariously. I'll always look at like what I have the next day and I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to schedule my day today.
Especially if you work with a lot of people too, sometimes I found late at night is like the only time where you actually have a bit of peace sometimes as well. So it's tough to, you finish communicating with people and then it's like 7 o'clock and you're like, yeah, bedtime and you're trying to wind down. So sometimes that is difficult. I get it. But I'm still trying to work out I'm 33 and I'm still trying to figure out what works best for me.
I mean, but you still change, you know, like through the years you change, life changes, your environment changes. So just
100%.
keep changing through it.
Roll with it. You're just a bloody chameleon, you know? You just get in there and you just fit in.
Exactly.
Speaking of, well, actually not speaking of chameleons, speaking of working things out, Miles, we want to talk about your CrossFit And, you know, like, I guess, do you want to speak to like your experience with that, like how far you went with it, and like your future plans, and like kind of how you've directed your energy into something that you are passionate about? You know, your experience with that being part of your training when you're a bikini athlete, and now not being part of your training. Do you want to touch on a little bit of that for people listening?
Yeah. So essentially, I'm just one of those people that I just love to be challenged. And I guess this is why I love competing. Because there's that challenge and there's all different types of challenges. So when I dipped into CrossFit and I tried that, I was like, whoa, this is a whole different world of like challenging. Like there's gymnastics, there's the strengths components, there's like the cardio fitness component, like all in one. And I'm like, wow, you have to be good at all of these things to be good at this sport. Like this is crazy and I'm ready and I want to challenge and I want to see where I suck and where I can get better. And so that's what steered me into that. And then obviously there's this, like I said, there's the strength components, and you need to be good at having what they call like doing your extras. So they consider bodybuilding extras, whereas I was just naturally already doing that. So like I already knew like the movements and like so I kind of like that was kind of a bonus for me when I entered the CrossFit world, was that I
Did you
had that
compete?
sort of strength component.
Did you compete first and then do CrossFit, or CrossFit then
Yeah,
compete?
no, I competed
Yeah.
first.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm very much like a goal-seeking person, so I always need to have a goal and have something to drive myself towards.
Hmm.
So my goal was post-show. I want to really try and do this CrossFit, and I really want to try and do both. And I knew that bodybuilding was always number one priority for me, so I always made that number one, and I would
Hmm.
just do CrossFit on the side. So, um, I would literally dabble into a few classes and then I would stop and then I'd double in and then kind of just like found a routine that eventually worked. And so with the CrossFit gym that I train at, they provide the schedule for the week. So I already knew like that's predominantly shoulders or that's predominantly lower body or stuff like that. So then I would alter my training for bodybuilding so I would hit the opposite muscle group. So essentially I was kind of almost doing like full body every day kind of thing, I guess
Yeah.
you
Oh
could
my
say.
God. Wow.
It was wild, right? Like, but I just loved it. It was, I don't know how to explain it. It is, like I told you, it's just like this thrill and this challenge that you just become so addictive to. And I'm like, and I was getting so much better and so much better. And then when I would have to really hustle in prep, I would completely pull away from CrossFit and I would just dwell straight into just my bodybuilding. And eventually as well, because calories get low, and my calories get low, like that's what happens for me. And so obviously I have to be smart with food timing and where I'm going to use as much of that energy into where it's most important. And for me that was obviously my training and my bodybuilding. So I was like, all right, that's when I'm pulling back CrossFit, I'm focusing on my bodybuilding, I need to focus on bringing my best. Okay. And so that's how I would sort of schedule and how I would do things. And then would, after a show, we'll then go, okay, cool. I'd start to dabble in and reintroduce it and that sort of thing. So, that's kind of, yeah, how I kind of scheduled it and kind of like balanced the life of both, I guess. And yeah, it's just like that thrill of being like, wow, I want to be that person that can do it all because why not? Right?
Did you competed in bikini? We were talking about this the other day, actually, when it was kind of more like the fit model, you know? And
Yes.
it was like that posing, right? It was like that sort of softer
Yes.
look. And was that when you started was CrossFit after that? When did you
No, so
start?
CrossFit's only semi kind of newish, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Maybe in like the last 3 to 4 years. But
Yeah.
I would say the last like year, 2 years was when I was like really invested,
Yeah.
really invested.
Mm.
Like I made sure I was like hitting these classes, like making sure I was trying to like my goal was to like learn a muscle up and like trying to excel in some gymnastics and stuff like that. So um I would say I was inconsistent for the first 2 years. Like I was like here, there, nah, yeah, no. But then in these last 2 years, especially in the last year, I was like sending it, like
Mm.
loved it. I love the fact that I could lift so strong, and there's just something so empowering as a female to be like, I'm front squatting 98 kilos and I'm literally 5 foot. Like, come at me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is just so boss. And then also the community helps. That is just something else. There's just this
Yeah.
love and passion that you get with the community in a CrossFit world, and the feeling of doing a WOD and absolutely dying and being like, holy shit, I literally killed myself that session, as opposed to the feeling you get after you get a juicy pump in the gym. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
pumped
know,
it.
yeah.
And then 2 minutes later, she gone. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
see ya. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's different kinds of satisfactions. And I guess that's what's addictive about each of them. So, yeah.
Mm.
Why do you think the community in bodybuilding is more standoffish than CrossFit?
I think because everybody is sort of like each their own, they're following their own programs, they've
Mm.
got their own goals, they're trying to mold their physiques in specific ways. Whereas CrossFitters, like if you have a look, it's obvious. A
Mm.
CrossFitter that is extremely successful, they all have a very similar body shape. And
Mm.
that's not bodybuilding,
I
No.
right?
was
So
just about to ask you, like, did you realize a lot of differences physique wise between like your functional
yeah.
training and then obviously your aesthetics training? How'd that affect you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So of course, like genetics always plays a huge role. Like there's so many great CrossFitters out there. They may have not made it to the opens, the CrossFit games or anything like that. And they're amazing. And their physiques don't look like a CrossFitter's physique. Like as opposed to like Tia Toomey, for example, like she's won so many CrossFit like competitions, and she's got a very blocky physique, right? Big quads, strong quads, like core is so strong, like Trapzilla, like, but man, she's an absolute boss. And
Yeah.
then imagine putting her in a bodybuilder show, you'd be like, where's your, like, you're not
Yeah.
very symmetrical, you're very blocky, right? So yeah, the physiques are very, very different. But again, like I said, genetics plays a huge role. Like, yeah, I mean, I didn't find, a lot of people will argue that it thickens your waist, but I mean, I didn't see that happen to me. In fact, I thought that it gave me a better waist, but
Hmm.
that's just what happened to me genetically.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's something that we've had to sort of decipher between, like, for example, there's a way of squatting for CrossFit that's efficient, that
Mm,
allows you to get a certain number of reps more with the same weight versus how to optimally grow your glutes, right?
correct. This is
With
very
two
true.
different,
Yes.
two different sports, even though they're both called squats, to completely different approach. And I think that that's probably the only thing where, coming from one thing to the other, we've had to really work on providing you with rules for each. You know what I mean? Where
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
trying to lift 100 kilos X amount of times, then you're gonna have leverage and you're gonna use momentum and everything. But if you're trying to grow your glutes optimally, then it's got to be set up this way, and you've got to have different stability and all that sort of stuff. How have you found that? Like, coming from one skill and trying to blend the two things, what would be your advice for anyone that does that? Like, it might not even be CrossFit. It could, like, equestrian. I don't know. But like, for anyone that has other passions, right? You guys didn't see that coming, did you?
No, I didn't actually. I'm like,
Equestrian.
Yeah,
The
it's like
horse come from.
like adductors, man. Strong
I was
adductors.
literally thinking of doctors too.
Just squish the watermelons. Um,
Yeah. So, I mean,
like,
like when we trained together that one time, we noticed that I was very much like pushing from my heels, because in CrossFit, they're like, use your heels, push from your heels, and like sit back in it, and like to like pull the weight up in the barbell and like get that motion, right? But in the bodybuilding world, we're like, no, we want to push from the toes. We want to push, we want to get the glutes engaged. We want to do that, have gripping and all that sort of stuff. And you're like, I was like, okay, this is very confusing. But
yeah,
eventually, like, the penny drops, right? So it makes sense, because you're like, with CrossFit, you're like, knees, push your knees out and stuff. And you hear all these cues and they help for CrossFit. But then in the bodybuilding world, you're like, no, we really need to have our toes down and engage, and then keep your knees like forward so you get engage your glutes properly and all that sort of stuff. So I definitely after that we had that session. I was kind of like, okay, wow, yep, all right. The big toes, they're the people we need to be
Yeah.
besties with. So I'm like forever like thinking about that and thinking of those cues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think definitely there is definitely a difference in regards to the trainings, and I
Mm.
think that you need to figure out which one you want to excel in at the time and then absolutely send it in that way. I think, yeah, you can, yeah, I don't know. It's hard. You can be an all-rounder athlete, but then really if you want to be a pro or you want to excel the most, then you're obviously going to put more energy into that, right? So
It's
that's
like,
just natural with life.
it's like playing tennis and then going and doing bodybuilding. It's like the only funny thing is that obviously both CrossFit and bodybuilding have squats. So for some reason we think that the squat has to be done the same way. But if you were to actually, if you were to go and ride a horse, for example, and learn that skill set, it's easier to decipher the difference between the two skills because one is so different, right? But obviously with the two things having both same exercises, you've got to still know that one is for a certain outcome and the other is for a certain outcome.
Correct.
And the other thing that a lot of people forget is that on stage, right? Like that's the sport. The training and everything else is a means to an end. It's not the actual sport. The sport is the stage, right? Being on stage, posing, the presentation, the confidence, all that stuff. That's what's required to be a pro. And so the way that you train has to reciprocate. It has to reflect. It has to reflect the things that you need to show on stage. So if you're training, your knees are out and you're back on your heels and you're doing all this stuff, you're not doing any of that on stage. You're not on your heels. You're not pushing your knees out. So all your training when you're in the gym has to reflect your poses that you're going to, if you look shit in a pose, it doesn't matter if you're really good at squats, you look shit in the pose. So coming from your area there, Kareem, with the posing, what have you had to adjust much with Miles, having any of those habits,
Yes. Yes. Me and Miles have been working very, very hard, and I'm very grateful for her willingness to learn and the way that she's always taking in new information, and seeing as she's been in this game for a while. Like people know who Marla is, people know her style, people know her posing, the way she shows up as an athlete, things like that. But like the testament to her as being a true athlete is just you can see it in the way that she is ready to keep improving. Like I feel like people
100%.
do kind of create that mindset with like, no, I've been doing this for however long and blah blah blah. But no, like that is not what I see from Marla. She's super open to learning, and not only learning but putting in the practice to back it up. So every time I see her, it's just like step after step after step. And we have made a good lot of changes. Hey, like a good lot of changes, literally. Especially because I've watched you compete, for so long. I've watched you as an athlete, and like now seeing it in person and then seeing just the little tiny tweaks and what that does to your physique, it's like just so cool to watch. And I said it from the start. I looked at you and I was like, Miles, like this is 2.0. Okay, this is your comeback. We're coming back for everything, and I don't think we've left any stone unturned. I think me and Tim can both agree to that.
Yeah, I agree with
you.
that. I agree. That's something that I often work with. It's rare that I'll work with someone from the beginning. I think Kareen, you're one of those. Like from the very beginning, we've worked, and so we haven't had any external influence, right? You've obviously had different people's opinions coming at you, but you've never really had a different. Well, not that there's ways of doing things, but there's different methods, different opinions, right? So it's often I'll get clients that come from other coaches or they're very experienced and they've got skin in the game and they've got prior emotional attachment to things that worked. And that's something that with Miles, I really haven't had a problem. I mean, other than that first thing where I was like, no, CrossFit, other than that, it was there's really been no resistance to trying to get the best out of it. And so that's something that, like, for anyone listening, like if you've reached a dead end or you're not getting what you really want or there's something not quite working, you might have to have a different opinion, a different approach, a different perspective on what you're doing, and just be open to change, because you never know, it might be the best thing you ever do with your posing, with your prep, whatever it is. But if it's working for you and you're seeing progression, then it's obviously the right thing for you, So that's really, really important. And I think as an athlete, But as someone who wants to be pro, you've got to find the process that you can replicate over and over and over that doesn't take away from the other things that you want to do, but you're also able to establish as a system that you get better at. Because if it's something that you've maxed out and you're not getting the results, well, how do you get better? There's nothing you can do about that. So yeah, good on you, Miles. Good job.
We can talk
That
as
was
much
really
as we
nice.
want about your prep in particular, but do you want to give a little bit insight
Yeah.
about
Oh yeah, Miles is here.
how
Let's stop
you're
talking about
feeling about the prep? Tell us.
You know
Tell us.
what?
Where's your
So
head at? How are you feeling?
honestly, like, this has been the most easiest yet. Oh, I'm falling. It's been the most easiest yet deer in the headlights at the same time. Like, I don't know. I was like telling Tim, and like when I often talk to people, I'm like, I feel like a deer in the headlights. They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, because his approach is different. It's new. And I just don't know what to expect. Like, I'm naturally expecting XYZ, and that's not happening. So, like, when do I die? Like, when do I have this feeling? Like,
Yeah.
when do I go, wow, I feel like I'm in prep? Like, I'm like, when does all this happen? And it's
Mm.
just, I'm like waiting. And it's so funny. Like, I was even talking to Sam and being like, sis, like, is this normal? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know. But honestly, like, so no prep is easy, but I have prepped many times, and this is why I say it's easy, and probably the easiest prep that I've done. Yes, I have my low days. I have my days where I'm tired. I have my days like any normal person would and any person in prep. But when I compare it to all of the other preps that I've done, I'm like, this is light work. Light work. I shot send it no matter what. Like, I mean, that's my approach for everything in life and everything, like I said, that I choose to do. But yeah, I don't know. This one's just different. But I'm like, loving it. I mean, I love every prep, but I don't know. I'm a psycho. Love the
What
challenge. Love the challenge.
what would be the main like 2 to 3 differences?
I'm not doing that much cardio.
Mm-hmm.
That, for starters, for me, that is huge and very confusing. I'm very
Yeah.
much
Yet.
that person that I'm like, I have to
Not
do
yet.
heaps of cardio, heaps and heaps. And I'm like, when do we do cardio? And you're
Yeah.
like, you are. And I'm like, but I'm not. I'm just doing steps. He goes, that's cardio, Miles. I'm like, what? No, it's not. Not to me, it isn't. Like, I'm not trying to elevate my heart rate. Like, I'm just walking.
Mm.
So that would definitely be one of them.
Mm.
What's another one? I don't know. I guess it's pretty normal for me for my calories to get really low. Like, that's pretty normal. Yeah, I think definitely it's probably the cardio component. I think that's the one that stood out the most. And
Yeah.
just, I guess, not feeling like death
Mm.
early on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Physique wise, have you noticed any big changes or like improvements or anything different that's come out this prep?
Yeah, totally. So I would definitely say I have grown in the places that I needed to grow.
Mm.
So Tim and I, we broke down my body, and he was like, cool, this is where you need to change, this is where you need to grow, this is what we need to do. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. And so we've kind of just worked together and like sent it in those departments. And definitely as the fats come off and as the layers are peeling back and I'm seeing my physique, and I knew it was there, but it's hard to believe that when you've got body fat sitting on there, right? So as they're pulling back, I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted. Yes, I've grown where I needed to. And yeah, I just, again, the training was so different with Tim. Like, it's not as much volume. And I'm like, again, this is just so weird. And I'm like, I remember seeing like 2 sets, and I was like, 2 sets?
Yeah.
What? What is this? And yeah. So I definitely have noticed my glutes have definitely grown where they've needed to. I've grown that projection that we needed. My shoulders have grown, and it's caused that beautiful symmetry. And there's that balance there as well. And my waist has remained small. So I've got that hourglass. I
Mm.
look at my physique and I love it, and I see balance, I see symmetry, and I see femininity, and I see hourglass. And to me, they're all the definitions of bikini.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Awesome. Love that.
Mhm.
Confident this will be a very good look. I
I
think it'll
truly
be
believe it.
a great look.
Yeah,
Probably your
me
best.
too.
I'm pretty confident in
absolutely
saying
agree.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I'm very, very, very happy. I'm very happy with how hard I worked. Like, not many people are willing to sacrifice putting on body fat, being uncomfortable to get to a better place and to improve. And I was very much, like I said, all in girl. So yeah, mate, there was points I could not fit my clothes. Could not fit them, and all I could wear was activewear. But I was like, I don't care. I'm doing this for a purpose. You put on body fat, you lose body fat. I know that I'm capable of both in either direction, and this is what it takes to be who I am and the person that I want to be. And I want to be a great role model for the sport, and this is what it takes. So I'm going to do that. And so like it's so crazy when I tell people, I'm like, yeah, so I've already lost about 10 kilos, and everyone's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got up to 64 kilos before we started my prep. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm only a little person. Like, that is a lot, but whatever. I don't care. Send it. Like, it is what it is. If it's going to help me grow muscle, preserve muscle, and give me the shape and what I need, I'm doing it.
I think that's really important, especially for a lot of any like first timers listening, things like that, who are currently going through their first build. It can be super discouraging seeing your body change and, seeing a physique you're not used to, but you got to think of the end picture, come to love yourself
Absolutely.
in every season because it's all for a reason. Hey.
And this is why I try and remind people, like, remember your why,
Mm.
right? This is only temporary. Like, this build phase, this body fat, the weight on the scales, whatever, it's temporary, and you're doing this for the end product. It's a
Yep.
small sacrifice for a large win in my eyes.
Can we come to your why a little bit and just touch on what's Marlette's why? Well, what does she envision?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely pro. I envision to be that person, and I've always wanted, and I always say it, and I believe I have done it as an amateur, and whatever happens, I will continue to do it. But I want to be that person that people know me as that Australian that's overseas, and they're sending it. I'm sending it for my country. Like, that's my why. I want to show people that you can have balance, live your best fucking life, and represent and show your love and passion no matter where you are.
Patriotic.
I think that, yes, I don't know. I'm 100% Latina. Like, I literally, both my parents are South American. Like, I'm 100% Latina, but I was born in
Latina.
Australia. Latina, yeah. You have to say how it is, right?
With the accent.
Yeah,
Left-
right. So yeah, I don't know. That's definitely my why. That's yeah, and I just want to prove that it's all here and in your head. And if you believe in yourself, you can do anything. You can do anything, and nobody can stop you.
Mm.
And I'm walking proof. I can do anything because I am passionate, I'm consistent, I'm determined, and I will do it, and I will show you that the only weakness is in your mind.
And bodybuilding is encapsulates that whole motto, that whole
Absolutely.
lesson. It's like the most tangible
Absolutely.
way of proving what your mind is capable of. Hey.
It's so true. Like, bodybuilding is the biggest mind game. Like, the body dysmorphia, like, you're like, I'm not lean enough, or oh my god, I'm so big, or I'm not big enough, or like, it is just this constant like cycle. But I just keep reminding myself where I'm like, you just stay consistent, stay on track, trust the process, trust your coach, and that's all you need to do, and just send it. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get the results. And you're going to learn along the way. You're going to learn so much about yourself because nobody is the same.
I can tell when Miles has like moments because she'll send me like a picture of someone who's getting ready for a show, like a pro or something, and she won't say anything. She'll just send me the picture, and I'll be like, cool, and she'll be like, look at the glutes, and I'm like, yeah, cool, and it's just like she's like fishing for like something, and I'm like, you look good too, though. You know,
Yeah, I know.
remember
Yeah.
yourself. Like it's funny what Instagram does to our brains. You know, like there's
Literally, it
everyone else
does.
doing these things, and then you're equally as like someone's probably sending your photo to their coach, going, "Look at this," you know. So
That's so cool. I never really thought about that, to be
yeah,
honest.
Big time.
yeah. So you got to be someone else's inspo, you know.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Yeah, no, I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I kind of just head down, bum up, and just send it in everything.
Mm.
Yeah, when you're doing RDLs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toes pressed.
toe press,
Toes,
toe
the big
press, toe
toes.
press, head down, bum up.
Literally. And no open bum hole. It's just.
Wow.
I couldn't stop laughing at that video. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Can I not? That was. Oh, you idiot, Miles. I literally, once the penny dropped, I'm like, oh my gosh, I literally just said that.
But
I
like,
Very much
can't.
like word vomit.
it like it like made sense to me. I knew what you meant. But then when I was like thinking about it, I'm like, that's not it. That's not the
No.
word you use. It's like
No, I didn't say that. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
sorry for anyone listening. It's a reel we did. There's a cue that I give for RDLs where you want to think about your glutes opening as you come into hip flexion. So as you're coming down, you want to think about your bum opening up, and it's like sort of like it's a weird one because it is kind of suggestive in a way, but it's when you use the word bum hole instead of glutes, it doesn't really work. And so if you're saying
Oh man.
open your bum hole in an RDL, it's not the idea, you know. It's not really what
No,
we're trying.
no, definitely not. No, so I
At that point,
apologize. But
it becomes a different video. It's not an RDL video anymore.
Oh my god. Not Instagram friendly.
Yeah,
no.
Much
it
more
might
than
be
just a shadow ban.
yeah. But is there anything we got to let you go to bed there? Is there anything you wanted to leave the audience with? You know, a lot of girls listen to this, they're on prep, they're doing their cardio, they're driving to work, whatever it is. Is there a message you want to send anyone or everyone, sorry?
Probably the one message that I love and I remind myself all the time is just remember who you are. And that actually came to one of my girlfriends said that to me. I remember I just had a day where I just kind of was like, sis, like I don't know what's going on. I'm just having just a moment. And she was like, remember who you are.
Mm,
And that's all she said. And then I was like, yeah, I know who I am. I know that I'm driven and I know that I'm passionate and I know why I'm doing this. And nobody's making me do this. I'm doing this
mm,
because I want to do this. So I think the message that I try and remind everybody is remember who you are, remember your purpose, remember your why, and absolutely send it. And who cares what anyone says? At the end
mm.
of the day, it's what makes you happy. That's always, and that's what I scream on my social media. Like, do
Yeah,
what makes you happy because it's your life, your one chance. So absolutely send it. And if you fail, you get back up and you keep going. That's it.
awesome.
Wow.
That's good. I got
I'm so
goosebumps.
motivated, man. I'm about to
Aw,
go like run a lap or
stop.
something.
Yeah,
Stop. I love you guys. Oh, thank you.
That's
it's really
beautiful.
good, and I think it's good. You know, I used to be on prep. I'm sure Karina attests to this. Is like when you hear someone who's that focused and like has that energy when they're in prep, it gives you energy too because you realize, hang on, everyone's feeling shit or whatever. Your life might be hard, your situation, whatever, and you just remember like who you are. It's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that definitely gets me through all the time. And
Mm.
worst case, motivational speeches. I listen to them all the time, all the time. And
Any recommendations?
I channel that their motivation and I channel it and I think of again, I always visualize and I manifest. I'm a massive person of that. I always close my eyes and I vision myself winning. I vision it all the time. I vision myself holding a trophy, holding a card that says IFBB Pro. I do it, especially on the days that are hard. I'm on the Stairmaster and I don't want to be there. I don't want to try and keep my heart rate up, but I'm doing it because I close my eyes and I vision who I am. And that's why I keep doing it.
And then you
Yeah.
take a photo of your face and send it to me.
Yeah, and then go, I made it. With like one eye half shut. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares how you got there. They just
Nah.
want to see what you bring.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Powerful. Thank you, Miles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that was a lovely one. Thanks for joining us, Miles.
Thanks for
And
having me.
Kareen, did you have anything you wanted to say to finish off?
Just I'm happy that Mars is here. I'm proud of her. I'm excited for her, and it's always nice to like kind of dig apart, someone's brain and look a little further into what they're about. So I'm grateful you came on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad I could just sort of like, yeah, speak who I am. I'm a very passionate person. Just like, yeah, in anything, I'm very passionate. I will absolutely rip it apart and then put it back together and then rip it apart and put it back together and then in any way possible and then try and teach everybody,
Do you have
Yeah.
any motivational things that you listen to that you love and you'd share with anyone? We
To
can
be
leave it in
honest,
between that.
not any specific ones, no. I kind of like on Spotify, I looked up the other day motivational speeches because it was actually a rest day, but I still obviously had to do my cardio and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like it. So I was like, no, Marlette, this is why you're doing it. And then I was listening to motivational speeches and there's actually a specific part that I remember and I actually get goosebumps and I cry every single time because it literally I get so invested. It's I can't remember his name. I think it's Denzel Washington is his name. I think it's yeah. And
Yep.
he says he mentions about ghosts visiting you in your grave and you taking some ghosts to the grave. And it
Okay.
says that you've passed on and there's ghosts they're sitting around your grave and they're looking at you and they're sad and they're saying, why didn't you achieve me? Why didn't you do what you said you were going to do? And now we're all here at the grave with you because you didn't do that. And I just think like, wow, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do everything that I want to do and I find passion in because I don't want to have ghosts at my grave that go, what if you actually tried to do me? What if where would you have been? You just don't know unless you try. So that's my thing, and that's where I got into CrossFit. I'm like, how will I know if I'm good at it if I don't try? I might be really good at this. Well, I'm just gonna try it, and if I don't, oh well, I tried it. Nothing, no loss. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
loss. So yeah, I think that one. If I find it, I will send it to you so you
Yeah.
can link it
That's
because
crazy.
I truly
Yeah.
love that one section that he says that and I just get goosebumps every single time. And I literally say it word for word as he's saying it. And I'm driving and I'm like, yes. And it just excites me so much. And then I get on the Stairmaster, hold on, close my eyes, and I just vision myself winning, winning, winning. And I'm like, no one's at my grave. No one's at my grave because I'm doing everything that I need to do in my life that I want to do. So yeah.
I think that's powerful. Like when you get older as well, or when I've gotten older, sorry, I've had more of a perspective on life, right? And you kind of realize that we're not here forever. This is
Correct.
a temporary thing. And when you have that perspective, I like that sort of. I mean, it's a kind of morbid to think about death, but it is motivating because you're like, man, if I don't achieve this shit that I want to achieve in this life, that's it. That's it.
Correct.
It's done.
Correct.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's very motivating for me on a daily basis. I think about it a lot, and yeah, I think that once you gain that perspective, it's powerful. So that's cool. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I think my job had a massive component of that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. What? Hey,
Definitely.
one
Surrounded by death.
one. Speaking on that, I forgot. I was going to ask you, what's the craziest shit you've ever seen?
Oh my gosh. A severed leg.
Yeah,
That came quick.
Yeah. Held it,
like
held it. I held it.
the
It's
full
heavy.
leg off.
From the knee, probably just above the knee. Held it.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
kid you not. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. It still has a
wow.
shoe
Oh my
on.
God.
I'm not
Did
lying.
they
It's so
reattach
cool.
it?
Oh, I'm such a weirdo. Loved it. It was so cool. I'm like,
Did
this
they
is why I do this shit. I love this shit.
did they reattach it?
No, I think it was detached
Yeah.
for too long.
You
Yeah.
took
Okay.
it home.
Yeah.
Souvenir.
Man, that's
No,
insane.
no. But yeah,
That's
yeah.
why.
Well, we tried to preserve it as much as we could because obviously
That's
we want someone to
crazy.
keep their leg. But
Mm.
Yeah.
yes, when everything's been open, infection, it's
I
you
always,
can only
I
save so
every time
much.
Every time I meet an emergency services person, I ask them that, and it's the craziest shit that they say, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly, like I've probably seen so much, but
Mm.
that's the one that strikes me every time, and I never forget it. I think
Yeah,
because it was just like I just remember holding it, and the first thing I thought of, this shit is heavy.
yeah,
Wow, I didn't really think it would be this heavy.
yeah.
That's
That's
probably the most
crazy.
wildest. Yeah.
Kareem's like terrified.
I just like
We're a
thinking
special
about
kind
our
of
legs
breed.
now.
Literally, we're a special breed, I
Kareem's got
tell you.
secondhand trauma now. PTSD from that.
I'm gonna start telling people, yeah, crazy. I held a leg one time. Oh, it's
All
insane.
right, guys. Thanks for joining, Miles. Thanks, Kareen.
Thank
And thanks, everyone, for
you.
listening. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Yay! Bye.